A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to another good time here on Superphone Flying. And when I say good time, I really mean it, because let's go and really dish out the heavy weapons right here. A 100 round hopper that can in fact be detachable, like so. And not to mention some pretty insane sorts of power, which is mostly powered by a few D-cell batteries in the stock. This is the Ultra Nemesis. And I'm basically coming at you live because wow, okay. That was kind of weird. Let's see what went wrong here. Hopefully that should help. Yep. So, I guess there's not really too much else I could comment on, because the Nemesis truthfully is one of the most powerful blasters I've probably ever had the chance to own. And being that this might as well just be one of those lucky days of mine where I was able to pick one of these up on the cheap on eBay, I can really tell you this thing has a lot of serious firepower, because first of all, you take a look at this hopper, which I've already mentioned is detachable, but you can also open it up, and that's where you can drop in your rounds, like so. And this thing could hold, well, it's supposed to hold 100 rounds, but you can optionally squeeze in a few more, but it might be difficult to handle, considering the fact that, well, this hopper is not necessarily an infinite supply of ammo on you, and once you run out, then, well, you'd have to spend a little while refilling this whole entire thing. But hey, you know what? With a hopper that opens up, in contrast to how most rival blasters would force you to load up on magazines, and if you're wasting them all, then, well, it might not be a good strategy. So to go into the battlefield with one of these in hand, a large hopper that also can in fact be extended thanks to some third-party companies that were able to make extensions to this. And the same sort of principle also applies to most other hopper blasters that the rival series has basically had lately. The Perseus and Prometheus also have their own sort of hopper upgrades that you could also buy from places like Etsy, for example. But I feel like that a 100 round hopper like this, which I was able to fit 107 rounds in this whole entire thing. Squeezing a total of 170 rounds in a rival blaster, why not? Because let's just say that apart from all things considered, it sure is an impressive blaster. And I could tell you that only because of the fact that, well, having 100 rounds in a hopper, not to mention some superb voltage, coming from 6 D-cell batteries in the back end of the stock, it really does feel pretty darn heavy, almost like you're wrangling a newborn baby, in a way. The weight is very similar, in fact, and so I ultimately would consider that most people who do own something like this, that they'd have to have themselves some good muscle if they ever want to hold on to something like this for a long period of time. And if you ever got your hands on a Prometheus, then, well, it probably would be a similar principle, where you'd have to have some pretty good strength to be able to carry a blaster that large around the house or wherever you usually go to have your own Nerf wars. For me, really, it's almost anywhere I go. And I do feel like that most other people out there would have a similar sort of tendency to have a Nerf war wherever they please. But to summarize, pretty much, the Nemesis might just be one of the best rival blasters I've ever owned, not just for how impressive its looks are, but having a 100 round hopper, having some extremely high voltage, coming from 6 D-cell batteries in the stock end, when compared to most other Nerf blasters that have been released thus far, extreme heavy weights, and a whole lot more. Simply gives us quite a combo to have to deal with. And I'm more than glad to own something like this when I was able to buy it on eBay at a pretty darn cheap price. But it's worth knowing by this point that eBay is very surprising at times. And I've been known to pick up blasters left and right, specifically because of some amazing deals I've been able to find not elsewhere. So, in any case, thank you very much for watching this whole entire thing. And as always, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.